Good morning and welcome back to 10-Minute Wellbeing Tips for Managers. Please put your cell phone on mute, turn your microphone on mute, and we will get to some questions in 10 minutes. So last week, we discussed priorities and how they influence our work-life balance. This is the last in a series of 5 episodes that has led towards today's exercise on creating a work-life balance norm on your team. A norm is a shared behavior, belief, or attitude for a group of people. Your team is a group of people, and I hope at the end of today, you'll have a roadmap on how you can help shape a work-life balance norm with your team. So we previously discussed the first 3 bullets in previous episodes. You can find them recorded on the Office of Wellbeing website. I want to just make a note that peer support is something we haven't discussed much previously. We will discuss it later this morning. Keep in mind, we need each other to be successful in creating norms. And finally, I want to respect that we are role models, but we also have our own managers who are role models, and how our own leaders manage, how our own leaders demonstrate work-life balance impacts how we're able to achieve our work-life balance. And I know there are many times where it feels like we don't have control over either the workload or when we're doing our work. I would like and hope for you that you can focus on what you can control as you think about creating work-life balance norms with your team. So do not try this at home. Do not try to create this recipe if you are not prepared to follow through on the ingredients that have been given you. These 3 ingredients, listening, vulnerability, and trust, have all been previous episodes as part of this 10-minute wellbeing series. A particular note on vulnerability at this time: be prepared and be forthcoming with your team. If you choose to have a discussion around work-life balance, please come prepared to that discussion to share with your team what challenges and what struggles you personally have with creating work-life balance. When you do that, it's likely going to help your team understand that you're a person too, and that you appreciate that they are likely going through similar struggles. Okay, now on to our exercise. Tara, go ahead and insert the, I don't know if it's a Word or a PDF document, into the chat box. I can't see the document as I do this, but you can certainly follow along. I'm not going to read through the whole things. I just have a couple of comments. I'd like you to kind of just move down to the table on the first page and note there are several rows, and one of them is work schedule. So in episode 20, we talked about boundaries. There's no more blatant way, in my opinion, to show disrespect to work-life boundaries when you work outside of the time that you're not supposed to be working. So even though when you go through this worksheet later, when you have more time to digest it, you'll see that you have options. We lay this out as don't do everything. These are options. Your work schedule is certainly something to consider as you figure out the approach you want to take. Communication. Our communications can either support or take away from our well-being, including our work-life balance. On the life side of the scale, the work-life balance scale, when we communicate, we may want to do that sometimes in person, because communicating electronically all day, even if it's electronically over a video camera, really takes away some of our needs, like the socializing part. And when we leave work at the end of the day depleted, it really can affect the life side of the work-life balance equation. So think about how you communicate and how that impacts your work-life balance. Meetings. We had a whole episode, number 21, on meetings. We spend way too much time in meetings. And when we spend all that time in meetings, it eats into our time to do our work. And as a result, many of us feel obligated to take that work with us outside of our work hours. Another category to consider. Again, you're not trying to do every category here and every bullet in each category, and we'll talk about that. And here's an oldie but goodie from episode 8, Take a Break. When we take breaks, it helps us come back refreshed and re-energized, and we can leave the work in a better place than if we don't take breaks, so that we're ready to enjoy the life side of the work-life balance equation. Now, in that table, it gives an example of taking a movement break. It doesn't have to be a movement break. It could be a mindfulness break, whatever it is you choose. And to reinforce the way, to reinforce the idea of taking breaks, consider putting breaks on your huddle board so that everyone knows when it's time for their break. Or consider putting breaks on your Outlook calendar if your team uses an Outlook calendar often, so that it is respected just like our other meeting times are respected. Okay, there is an other section on this table that you're looking at. You'll notice that there is no title to this slide. I'd like you to, this is a little bit challenge for you. Think about what the title should be on this slide and type it into the chat box, and I will give you the answer in less than 60 seconds. So what you want to do is ask your team, what are some of the other options? Oh, well. And I'm going to give you an example. You always hear me saying, don't use a cell phone during these meetings because they take away from the attention, and it's not only distraction for you, but your colleagues, and it makes being in meetings longer. So maybe that other is a no cell phone policy during meetings. Okay, did anybody get it that the title of this slide is Brainstorm? All right, on to our next one. So my 2 cents about looking at this table later when you have more time. Go into it with a positive outlook. It is possible that the team might start venting about the lack of work-life balance. And we certainly want to respect and show sympathy and probably empathy in many ways. We don't want to get bogged down in using all the time to complain. So I just want you to recognize that and be prepared as you go into that conversation and find ways that you can highlight positive aspects. I strongly recommend that you go for the early win, something easy. Now, there may be things that are on the team's mind that could be very meaningful and substantive, but if they're too challenging and you aren't able to achieve them, that will set your team up for a situation where they may not want to try again. Better to get an easy norm in place and sustained so that you can increase the confidence level of your team to go after bigger items. Don't forget the 3 Ps. Positively reinforce when people are following the desired norm. Make sure you stay with it. It takes time, as you all know, in your personal life. Your own personal habits take weeks, if not months, to establish. And don't be afraid of pushback. If one of your norms is not to email in the evening and you come in the next morning and you see that there's an email from 8 o'clock the night before, just have a word with the person. Take them aside, say all the positive things they're doing and how it's great that they're slowed down the number of emails at night, but that you would appreciate if they continue on a path that the team agreed on. Remove barriers. And that means if there's a way for you to make it easier for the team to reach that norm, please do so. You could be the barrier. Don't email at night if that's what the team decided. On page, I think it's page 2, there is a pledge sheet. We know that when people make a pledge, they're more likely to follow through than if they don't. And this is a way of not only a person pledging to do this themselves, but to support each other. It's a way of giving permission for each other to make each other aware of where we're weak. There is a 3rd page. It's about evaluation. You could choose to do this, you might not, but you may want to understand how well you're doing. And that could involve using this tool or a similar tool that you make up. You want to wait at least a month. I just chose a month. It could be 2 months to see before you administer this. And you may want to have somebody outside of the team collect it. I put Healthy at Hopkins champion down. It doesn't have to be. Let's say you are in a clinical unit on the 4th floor on the east wing. Maybe you talk to another manager or leader on the west wing, and you both agree you're going to do this exercise with your teams, and then somebody else on the other team is going to collect the data. Because people on your team may want anonymity. You notice that there's some qualitative feedback, some open-ended space for people to write in their challenges. I've gone over 10 minutes, but let me just wrap it up here. Remember, work-life balance is not just a physical balance, it is a mental balance as well. You don't probably want to take work home with you in your mind because it takes away the time you have with your friends and family. It could interfere with your sleep. So if you are having challenges separating mentally from your workplace and you haven't tried mindfulness, I strongly recommend it. We have a whole host of resources on the Healthy at Hopkins app if you aren't seeking them out elsewhere already. I'm going to just ask Tara to put the questionnaire in. I'm excited to have Carolyn taking the lead next week on empowerment and autonomy. And I'm going to end the slides there. Thank you.